Okay. Hello. Says 0. 6. There we go. Hello, friends. It's host Eric, host of Talking with Friends People. I had to restart the old live stream there. And you know why? I'll tell you why. Because the old one broke. Let me make sure that old one turned off. I don't see anybody arriving yet, and that usually indicates there's somebody. I'm going to pop out the chat, make sure the chat works. There we go. Jerry like the mouse. Hello again, Jerry like the mouse. Sorry about that, everybody. It was actually Kim's fault, but I'm not mad at her or anything. She was cleaning my laptop. She's sitting on the couch there, and she sees my laptop has all these. It's basically bong resin on it, mostly. It's mostly bong resin. But so she decided to get some wipes and clean it up, and I don't know, she pushed something and it caused everything to go kaput. So I believe we were talking about wisdom, and we were talking about high fields of dragonflies.
High fields of dragonflies.
And we were discussing what it means to be wise in various capacities and whether knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. Yes, it certainly is used that way. What does it mean to be? Is that what suggests that wisdom is always specific or applicable to a given thing that you have experience about? So I think there's also a usage of wisdom where people use the word wisdom a lot of times to mean something like that is a quality embodied by that person. That person is wise. And usually it's probably like some preacher or something, that you're going to say that about, or somebody who seems profound. And I don't know. How y'all doing tonight? Well, I can't speak for the rest of y'all, but I'm doing fine.
Are you ever not doing fine?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I come in here and start venting about
me.
About Kimberly. That means I'm upset in those instances.
Poor baby.
I know. Poor Eric.
Oh, poor Eric. He leads such a tough life in his wife's life.
Kim is an ISFJ. Wisdom is obtained by an analysis of experience. Intelligence is obtained through the practice of analysis and or synthesization. Okay, well, so you think intelligence is not an innate quality then? You're not saying that people are born high intelligence and they just carry it through with them. You're saying
I think they are.
They become intelligence through practicing analysis? Vladimir Kotrov says, does wisdom go beyond science and rationality? What if you have learned emotional and wise things over time? There's no tangible way to measure them because you're stupid. Okay, but that's a perfectly good question until the because you're stupid part. So everything you say there is correct. That, absolutely wisdom goes beyond science and rationality. In the sense that if you want to be meta-rational, you're going to have to incorporate both rationality and magical thinking into a meta frame of some sort. So it's like usually the most common, I guess you'd say, manifestation of meta rationalism goes like this: magical thinking, rationalism, meta rationalism. But because I was raised by atheists and very logic driven parents, mine went rationalism all the way into my 40s, and then magical thinking, meta rationalism all at once. So that there's a different arc of development cognitively for given people. To me, wisdom involves humility first and foremost. It involves recognizing that you are fragile, flawed, and capable of making mistakes. If you don't, the purposed, like, value of wisdom is that it prevents you from doing stupid shit, is as I typically use the word anyway. People use it in lots of different ways. But Jerry, like the mouse, says, I've always believed intelligence is knowledge and wisdom is to knowing what to do with it. Well, I would say intelligence, if you were going to say intelligence is knowledge, let's just leave that alone, not attack it at all. Then you'd say, and impetus. Well, I guess wisdom might be see, the problem here is there's the issue of knowing stuff in the status quo, like right now, that it could be useful in informing a current thing under consideration. So there's some sort of course of action I'm considering, right? I enter this decision-making process with what I know right now as a status quo. That includes both what I know from my experience. I really don't like it when a circumstance has this specific element. And it's what I know from my universals about the world. People who wear those kind of clothes tend to be like this, for example. So I have both those kinds of knowledge in me. I have knowledge from experience and I have knowledge about the world. And that's what I bring into the status quo into my decision making. So let me read back the comment again that I'm responding to so I can refresh my memory where I'm going with this. Intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom to know what to do with it. So, okay, so the point is then using that existing knowledge to correctly determine what the best path is, perhaps, would be considered wisdom, maybe. But then you sort of have that wisdom taken away from you if you're unable to actually walk that path or execute the plan. And that's the trouble for a lot of intuitives. People who are more intuitive tend to have trouble following through on ideas because either as soon as they start to follow through on an idea, another new idea comes and pushes it out of the way, or because they understand the idea they want to do so clearly that they can't really imagine actually manifesting it so perfectly, or they're too much of a perfectionist. And that tends to be an NI thing. Like, I know very clearly how I want this to be, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get it exactly like that. So I don't even want to start it. That's going to be like an INFJ thing sometimes. And they'll be hesitant they'll put stuff up and they'll delete it because it's not good enough. And this broke and came back on. It's my bad. It's not my fault on my end. So, as a intuition dom who's also an action type, I have the problem I described first, which is I tend to have a lot of ideas that push each other out of the way. I'd be wisest if I were evaluating my own wisdom on a money level or a teleology level or a success of the channel level. I'd be wisest to be spending my time right now making type police videos instead of this. However, that's sort of your definition of wisdom.
Or selling t-shirts for Kimberly.
Or selling t-shirts. Remember, if you would like to buy a t-shirt, I'll put my email address here again. Also, I do type people. If you want to be typed by me, it costs $100. You get at least a 75-minute session, and often I'll go a little longer than that.
And Kimberly's t-shirts are $15 and $20, including shipping.
And you can individuate the session however you want. You can have me type you, or you can ask me questions, or you can have me do, whatever you want, basically, with my clothes on.
Thank God.
Okay, so ENTP Mastermind is here again, and the real Donald Trump does come here a lot. Yeah, I didn't know it. I didn't realize it, but he apparently spends his late evenings in Washington, D.C. watching TWFP live streams, which is pretty cool. President Trump, welcome. Yeah, refining an idea to death is a typical NI-DOM problem. Failing to refine an idea enough is a typical NE problem. I, for a long time, had a big problem with the following. I'd make a song or something, and maybe I'd freestyle it, and I'd like the idea without really listening to the execution very much. So it would be like, no, can I see that, please? Can't just hand it to me.
You said you wanted to see it.
Oh my God, it's the torch. So, Intelligence Types by Howard Gardner. Is that the guy who does the multiple intelligences and kinesthetic and all that stuff? I mean, I don't disagree with that exactly, but I think it's subsumed by cognitive functions as an idea. Am I a SoundCloud rapper? Do I have my stuff on SoundCloud? Nah, dog, I got my stuff on YouTube. Yeah, I think it's subsumed by cognitive functions. I don't disagree with it in general. I think that there are, in fact, multiple modalities of intelligence. It's one of the reasons why I've long been a critic of IQ, which I think is more or less, well, it's not meaningless. It's just stupid because it doesn't actually tell you anything about yourself except how well you score on this test, which is sort of a conglomeration of different skill sets that they test on those things, some of which are not likely to be correlated with others necessarily well. So it ends up rewarding those who are like very good at multiple kinds of logic that it tests for over those who are incredibly good at one but not so good at the other. They might get the same score, right? But they're not really showing the same thing, right? Because it's got like 4 different kinds of logics that it's testing. I would much prefer an IQ test. It doesn't call itself an IQ test, but it calls itself things like, there are these tests. I mean, I prefer these kinds. It's called themselves analogical reasoning test and or spatial reasoning test and or whatever kind of reasoning test, emotional intelligence test. Those things are much more meaningful kinds of scores, at least, because you've got some sort of definitional constraint on what the thing is that's being scored. You don't really have that on IQ. Let's see what else is in the chat today. Not me, says Hero Lem. Isn't that kind of boring and psychopathic? Though I guess they'd never feel they're missing out if they never felt anything in the first place. Pum, 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 pum. I give your chats little musical accompaniments sometimes. Give them a little bit more oomph. IQ tell me I'm awesome when I fail in life, which is very helpful. Are you an INTP, Batman, by any chance? Bruno Lee says, it shows you where your natural strengths are, your natural abilities to digest certain information. Well, sure. I mean, multiple intelligences? Yeah, I think what it does better than that is it sort of
I have a terrible IQ score.
dislodges people's attachment to IQ scores. Because, well, Kimberly says she has a terrible IQ score.
No, I'm saying I would have one because I can't remember shit. Like I have comprehension issues and always have, but I don't think that my IQ is probably a low score, but I don't think I'm.
You're not dumb at all.
Not dumb at all.
No, you are not dumb at all. You're stubborn, but you're not dumb. Okay.
Oh, that's why we're 2 perfect peas in a pod, because you're stubborn and not dumb too.
Hero Lamb, that was a kind of sarcastic response to Trump. But I guess that the irony got lost. Arrow up, arrow up. Nuh-uh, INFP, heart and soul. I got an INFP in my heart. I got an INFP in my soul. I got an ESTP in my dick.
Thank you, Brenda.
So come on, baby, let's roll. That's a good song right there. That's a good little rap. What is that? What would you call that thing? Not a quatrain, but stanza. I guess. I don't know what you call rap stanzas. Do you call them stanzas in rap? Bars? Which sensor type most often impresses you with their intelligence? I'm going to go with ESTP. ESTPs can be very intelligent, even though they're not intuitives. So don't be misled. Just because somebody is smart and able to keep up with you in argumentation or something, or talking about these ideas, or is able to contribute meaningfully to the conversation or something, it doesn't necessarily mean they're intuitive. They can still be sensors. You got to let them talk about what they're, it would be ideal to watch people when they're not talking to you sometimes, that'd be kind of a good way to type people, is to sneak up and like, If you could be invisible and just follow them around all day and they never notice you and just watch them all day, you could probably type in no problem. And then you wouldn't have to worry about them gaming or anything. Fa-ah-ha-ha. Fa-ah-ha-ha. My name's Fa-ah-ha-ha. Fa-ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-fa-fa-ha is my name. It's a difficult name to remember. I'm not going to lie. What introduced you to the MBTI rabbit hole? Says Ryan. Well, it was the MBTI rabbit. I was following the MBTI rabbit, and he had stolen some of my carrots. I was trying to retrieve them, naturally. I'm not going to accept rabbit-based transgressions against my property.
Answer this question.
Anywho, where naturally does the rabbit head? But down a culvert and into a hole. It's bored into the side of a hill. I peer my head in, and what do I see inside? F's and E's and T's and S's and N's everywhere. And that's how I got into MBTI. I know, I'll tell you the story. I'm sorry. My bad. Can't really say to stop that shit, I guess. So I basically, when I was in my early 30s, I first discovered I was an ENTP, or I first heard about it. It was the first time I'd ever heard about it. Unlike most people, I didn't take any testing college. I didn't take any tests in high school or anything. I didn't hear about MBTI until it was in my internet. Like to tears, because for the first time in my life, I felt like, oh, I'm not just
alone.
There's not just something wrong with me. I'm an example of this type that deviates from norms in the following way. But I didn't have any reason as to why. I didn't find anything on the internet about cognitive functions back then. So then, many years later, when I started the YouTube channel, I was making only philosophy videos, basically. And then one day I read some stuff on cognitive functions on the internet, and I decided to make a video about how I was an ENTP, and I just learned about this cognitive function thing. And here are the cognitive functions and how I see it. They say it means this, and that makes sense. Just basically talked it through. And basically the theme of the video was challenges of being an ENTP. So I talked a lot about the negative manifestations of it, made some jokes, some self-deprecating jokes. It played well on an FE level. And it was my first actually successful video, which prompted me to want to make more MBTI videos. And I quickly learned that my MBTI videos did better than my other videos, which is still true to this day. And that my type police videos do better still than any of my other videos, my other MBTI videos or anything else. The only things that might compete sometimes with the type police videos, I'll occasionally get like a hit that succeeds on its own merits as a one-off. For example, I made a video called The Asshole's Guide to 16 Personalities, in which I basically go through and talk shit about each of the types sort of a little bit. And that one did really well. It's my most successful video of 2018. All right, let me move on to the next thing. So I got a little off topic there. Sauron was just wanting to start a personality typing business when he wanted the One Ring back. Kick them as they're dying. Survival of the fittest, lol, but someone with FE will be coming. Wow, it's going so fast. Okay. At George. Makes perfect sense, says Ryan. Sheila W. My ESTP hobby has the quickest wit. 5 minutes later, should have said such and such. Oh, I think you left a couple of words out or something. The rabbit, you've seen him too, I see. LMAO stands for laughing my avocado off. I'm Batman, you suck. Survival of the fittest is such a bad idea when it comes to humans. If somebody's recommending it as a policy prescription, I would agree with you, Batman. That'd be a bad idea. Hey, I know, everybody. Let's do survival of the fittest. Okay. You're not fit. Die. Okay. EHVs are very intelligent in certain ways. For example, they can easily gather sensory information and act in a way that is perfect for the situation. They'd be good soldiers. Correct. They'd be good, generals, not like the top level general, but like the field generals and stuff too, because there's a certain amount of people always think about warfare as being tactics and strategy. A certain amount of opportunism is determinant in it as well. When you got an ESP at the head of your army, and that other army is expecting to fight you tomorrow afternoon, and all of a sudden, as they're just getting set up to start thinking about tomorrow afternoon's battle, you're on them. That's kind of sometimes an insurmountable advantage. So I think ESPs have the advantage of opportunism filtered with logic. So they tend to opportunistically take advantage of things that are justifiable. Trump would be an exception. He doesn't seem to care about justifying his shit except within a single node. He doesn't go between nodes at all. He's not logically consistent across time. You might think he's an ESFP, but he's not. He's an ESTP. You can see the third slot FE easy. He's just got shitty TI for an ESTP. Okay, let's see. Either a caveman will come bashing your head in, or you'll create AI that will wipe you. So good luck with that. Which one do I prefer? I'll create the AI that will wipe me out because that's going to take a lot longer than letting caveman bash my head in. What conspiracy theories do I believe? I mean, I believe 9/11 wasn't the way they say it was. Or at least I believe there was definitely some shady inside shit going on with 9/11. I'm quite convinced. And the main reason I am is because Building 7, right? That's awfully convincing evidence. I'm not saying, I'm not affirming any particular position as to what happened. I'm just saying that is, you can't get a steamier, larger, more fragrant pile of shit, and to try to pretend that it's something else is insane. So there's that. Okay, if you're not familiar with that, I don't really care that much. I'm not an advocate of the 9/11 stuff. I'm not I'm not stomping my feet about it, but I'm just saying my professional assessment as a evaluator of arguments is arguments against inside job stuff with 9/11 don't withstand much scrutiny, because the affirmation on, yeah, there's some bullshit going on here is way too strong. And it's not just like, well, there's a bunch of weird shit happens. Like, everything happens with a bunch of weird specifics. You could always say the fact that it has weird specifics means it wasn't really what it was. That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay. I'm talking about massive steaming piles of shit that you can't pretend or something else. No matter how much you don't have a clear view of it, it's too obviously a massive steaming pile of shit. What about your hand? Oh, I thought you were just sort of sticking it into the frame. Yes, darling.
I'm gonna go to the store and get some all-purpose spray and go do a couple things. I'm gonna be here a while, yeah.
Yeah, I got typing at 8. Remember?
Oh yeah.
What? Okay, I'll mute for a second. What?
Do you need me?
No, I'm fine. Okay, so let me proceed forward and through the comments here. Any types are great at improv, but how are NI-DOMs and tool users at it? NI-DOMs and INFJs can be okay at it. They're pretty good at it. The thing is, an INFJ is most liberated to be improvisationally effective, sometimes genius, when paired with an ENFP. Because the INFJ, if I were sitting here with an INFJ next to me, and once we had worked together a few times and get used to each other's styles and how to find the rhythms of each other, the INFJ would do a great job of bringing me back on point, so to speak, and or providing insight that collapses shit that I'm saying into stuff that's much more resonant communicatively or something. There's a certain natural cooperation between ENFP and INFJ when in front of people, in front of a camera. So, that's indicative of how NI-DOMs and tool users, tool users is different. NI-DOMs will do that, or at least INFJs. And INTJs are different too, because they're not going to improv in that way. But I mean, FE is kind of the key thing to humor. If you don't have FE, I don't think you're going to be, well, I don't know. You have to have any and polar FE isn't going to work. You got to have at least some FE awareness. You can be FI type. Like ENFP might be a decent comedian or something, but by and large, I think you're looking at any FE as the things that are necessary to like prerequisites to humor. It's coming up with clever ideas that resonate with the universal for people, so you can enough so that you can actually anticipate that they'll laugh when I say this. Like you're actually predicting their behavior in some sense. You're going, okay, I can trigger this reaction from this person with this statement. And I've always found that if I get a serious laughter from somebody about a joke I make, and I'm like, if it's in the physical room with me and I hear it and it's like a gut big laugh that they obviously, it escaped them without any ability of them to constrain it and it was natural and everything. That's the best kind of feedback I can get. That's like the most juiciest of all feedback, frankly. I do love getting like being up on stage, playing music and having people dance and applaud and stuff like that. And that's nice feedback too. That's like second maybe. But real genuine laughter is as pure as it gets. And of course, the thing about humor is it's the least repeatable of all media. So it makes sense that it would have the most juicy real-time expression of feedback from consumers of it. Okay, so let me move forward. I found out about MBTI through my freshman world history class. We were told to take the test on 16 personalities. Why that test? Why that test? And you got ISFPT. Well, I don't know what you are. Just think about it. That's possible. You could be an ISFP. That was the vid. The first vid I saw. What was the first vid you saw? Forrest Gump? The movie Forrest Gump was the first video you ever saw. Okay, thanks for sharing that with me. Sheila W., he was infantry for many years. Then he graduated to cavalry, then to artillery, finally to the Air Force, and at last to NASA. He now lives on the moon. Which type's most drawn to chess? I would say your STPs, your STJs, your NTJs will all probably be drawn to it. As to which types will be best at it, I would guess it would be NTJs, but STPs would have a decent shot at it probably. And I think that STJs might as well. There's like different approaches you can take to chess. The one that doesn't work is the one I try to take to it, which is all ideational. Like, well, maybe if I moved over there, then I'd sort of be more over there for one thing. Plus, that guy over there wouldn't be able to get to this guy anymore. And then, it's like I'm a terrible chess player. I don't know why I'm so bad at it. It's kind of frustrating. It's like smart people are good at chess. I guess I'm not a smart person then. Okay. Evolution was once a product of nature, but now it's a product of engineering. It was never a product of nature. Evolution is bullshit, Reynolds. It makes no sense. We define a species as that which gives birth to like of itself. And if you think about the population dynamics, it makes absolutely no sense that a preferable gene would spread in a population of any size at all. It would have to be so much superior to the genetic norm of the rest of the species that it caused that one species individual that with this fortunate mutation that comes from someplace to kill all the rest of his species save one to create another founder's effect, to create another thing. And plus, how long do you think it took all these creatures and stuff to evolve? 4 billion years? We had a huge extinction event that killed all big creatures beyond a few multi-cells 66 million years ago. Almost all scientists agree with that. So how did humans evolve from little multi-cell things to humans in 66 million years? It doesn't make any sense at all. How many generations would it take to create that kind of evolution? Through what? Through what mechanism? It would have to be a series of population ending events with two individuals left, like generation after generation after generation. It would have to cut the species back down to 2 or 3, and then it would grow a little bit, and then cut it back down, and only select for the mutated ones that are mutated from nowhere. they have no consistent explanation for why, what the mechanism is that purportedly is behind evolution. They've got contradicting multiple explanations for it. In fact, they've got the long, slow, steady model, which says it takes 4 billion years. And they've got punctuated equilibrium, which takes into account the extinction events and says, oh no, there's little stretches of time, like 1 or 2 million years, where evolution goes super fast. But then you enter into a period of stasis within the species. So what makes it go super fast? We don't know, but it must, because that's the only way to explain how we've evolved, since evolution's obviously right. You're begging the question, retards. The scientists are even starting to collapse on it themselves. They're giving up on the notion. There's another study recently that shows 100,000 years ago, there was a bottleneck where almost every species got down to all of a sudden, like the root genetics of what now is that species. So how do we know it was a bottleneck? Well, because of course we're assuming evolution is right and twisting all of our explanations concentric circle style into these outrageously both impractical, illogical, and nonsensical justifications for continuing to cling to the idea of evolution as an explanation for anything. So there you go about evolution. So let's see. George Carlin did seem like a TE user. I don't like George Carlin. He may have been an ENFP, would make more sense than ENTP. I think I'd like him more if he were an ENTP. Which types are more likely to have intimacy issues? Fear of getting up, opening up and getting close to people. I actually don't think it's a type thing. I think it has to do exclusively with attachment style. If you have a secure attachment style, then you won't have intimacy issues. If you have one of the 3 possible styles of insecure attachment, then you will have intimacy issues. And the insecure attachment styles include ambivalent, anxious avoidant, and chaotic. Chaotic's the worst one. Okay, for example, because we now have the human genome mapped out, a woman can get her egg scanned for best quality and then implanted in her. I mean, why don't we just get all the women to put all their eggs in a big pile, scan them all for good quality, throw out all the bad ones, and then randomly redistribute them to people? That sounds like a good plan. Why is that test inaccurate? Which test? Certain diseases can be completely eliminated, like smallpox. I have a joke. Why did the chicken cross the road? To catch the perp claiming to be an ENTP, but he seemed sensing to me. It's a pretty good joke, GW. Oh, why is that test inaccurate? Personalities, 16 personalities.com? Because it spits out way too many intuitives, for one thing. And it thinks everybody who self-identifies as creative and clever is some sort of NTP. I see so many people who are not NTPs get ENTP on that test, for one thing. And same with INFJ. It pops out ENTPs and INFJs like crazy. Well, why do you think it does that? Because those are juicy types. And then when you get to the end of it, it offers to sell you some additional information about yourself, right? Well, nobody wants additional information when they learn they're an ISTJ. Sorry, Curtis, no offense. They go, boom, 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 boom. Well, that type sounds boring in the type descriptions. I wouldn't want to be that. Of course, they're not a character, right? They're not the type description. The type description is only sort of accurate, no matter what type description it is, because it's describing the person as a representation of a type rather than an ongoing process of ontology that includes these various attentional manners, prioritized in certain ways. Okay. I love when I get a massive laugh from one person and the other 7 completely missed. There was even a joke there. Oh, I'd rather get all 7 laughing, but there's something satisfying about that too. What you're talking about, Batman, or you? Yeah, you are Batman. So, since your name's I'm Batman, you suck. I can just call you Batman because you're Batman. Or I call you Batman, you suck. You probably wouldn't want that. Is Forrest Gump an ISTJ? Forrest Gump is slightly retarded, as far as I can tell. So it's hard to tell his type. I think mental retardation is type muddying. Jackie Kitty says, hello, Eric. Are you into astrology at all? And what's your sun sign? I'm not into astrology, but I don't really hate on it or anything. I just don't think it's something that withstands any argumentational scrutiny. But I do get the fact that a lot of people enjoy sort of intuiting off of elements and creating the narratives thusly. My sun sign, I think that you mean that's like my main sign, right? That would be Taurus. My birthday is in late April. I'm a Taurus, but this girl Emily was over here the other night. She's somebody who was live streaming with Bukoki one time. She came over here basically to give me and Kim therapy, which she did a great job of. She's not actually giving us therapy because she's not technically a therapist, but she was practicing on us. Let's say we needed her practice. It helped. Anyway, she was into astrology, and I looked up my chart, and she said various things about it. I don't really remember. The thing about astrology, I think, is that there's so many different elements, like moon over here, that moon over there, and whether it's ascending or descending or rescending or condescending. I'm sorry, but Venus's moon was really condescending when you were born. I'm not inviting it back to any parties. I mean, just no FE. An INFP girl showed me the MBTI, and I ended up figuring out that I'm actually an INFP as well. We've been good friends for years and basically the exact same person, except she's goofier. I see. Have you guys been intimate before? INFP, the moistest moisture of all. Double moisture. Double moisture is greater than the sum of its parts, I think. If you double up your moisture and throw it at each other, it's how if you push fire from over here and push fire from over here, they'll get together and they'll make an even bigger fire, right? Bigger than either fire independently combined. Same thing with moisture. And what you need to learn to do, Dawson, is to moisten the dewdrops of your dampness with the tender saline of your wetness. Okay? When you can do that, then you will have achieved INFP enlightenment. Explain. What do you want me to explain, Brenda Lee? You want me to explain the train? The train is the thing that goes on the tracks. Evolution has no statistical backing. Total psyop. I don't think it's a psyop. I think it's a wrong notion that people got enamored with. Because here's the thing. There's all this ancillary genetic stuff you can do that is accurate, and it is science, and it is meaningful, and it does show us shit. And they keep trying to say, because genetics, evolution. But there's no indication of evolution, just genetics. If evolution were real, dogs would no longer be able to breed with wolves. Chihuahuas wouldn't be able to breed with Great Danes. They'd be different species. When it comes to chess, what I've noticed, an INFP will crush until they're like 10, like with everything else. Actually, INFPs can continue to crush late into adulthood. For example, my friend Elizabeth, who's an INFP, is unbeatable at Connect 4. By anybody ever that I've ever seen, she never loses. Connect 4 is more complicated than you think. If you don't know the game, you can look it up on the internet or something. You got to connect 4 circles. And back when I was a kid, and each of the rows has a stack, so you can stack them as high as you want, but the thing is, you take turns, and anyway, I don't want to explain it. The point is, when I was a kid, there was a commercial on TV, and the boy shook his head, he said, I'm sorry, the sister says, I got you, that's game, and they're playing Connect 4, and the brother says, where? And the sister says, there, diagonally. And the brother goes, like that. It's a commercial I remember from my childhood. It really inspired me to want to play Connect 4 a lot. I didn't have a sister, but I thought, gosh, that'd be great if I had a sister. She could point out where she got me diagonally and how tricky that is. It's less obvious than either horizontally or up and down vertically. Okay, so let's see what else we're doing here in the old chatteroo. Looks like I need to scroll down a bit. Oh, quite a bit, in fact. Okay. Where'd all this stuff come from, though? How'd you know what is accurate or not accurate? Where'd you get your initial information from about this stuff? How can you say what is right or not? Good questions, Vladimir. I got my initial information piecemeal from random spots on the internet. The reason I can say it's right or not is because I can do a calculus on it in real time as I'm reading it. And thereafter, in comparison, going down the time across years, I write the stuff down into various taxonomies. I can attempt it once with a certain idea sort of engine behind my expression of this whole thing, and it failed, and I just have to toss it aside. I can attempt it again with a different idea with some subtypes and stuff, and not really hold muster, and I have to toss it again. And then I can attempt it a third time and have the case built correctly, and then it withstands argumentational scrutiny. So the answer to the question, where did I get it from? The part that's original, I made up, and the part that's not, I got from someplace. I don't know, various places, lots of different places. Took notes from here and there. And the reason I know it's right, and the reason why you should agree it's right as well, is because it withstands argumentational scrutiny. In other words, there's nothing about it that you can win an argument about against it with me or anybody else so far. And if it does reach the point where I go in and somebody says, but you didn't note this, Eric, this aspect creates contradiction here, and you didn't notice it, and they're right, then if I can save the whole taxonomy and fix the contradiction, in other words, if it's not systemically destructive, then I'll do so. And if it is systemically destructive, then I'd have to scrap the whole thing again. But remember that it is right because nothing else has defeated it. It's not wrong because nobody's done the argumentational work to make it wrong. And the thing is, I've done the argumentational work to make sure it's not wrong. So I've tried to make it wrong lots of times in plenty of different ways in order to make sure it has system integrity, that it holds water, and that if you're going to attack at any different angle on it, I know how I'm going to respond and why that attack's not going to work. So if you want it to, if you're saying, well, how do you know if it's right or not? In general, the answer to that question almost always is, well, whoever's winning the arguments is right. And if you can know, like let's say some public figure is winning the battle for public opinion on a given policy prescription, but those arguments wouldn't win against your arguments, then you're right. But nobody else is going to know that because you're not going to get to argue against them directly. But if you objectively can calculate that these arguments defeat those arguments for these reasons, and that his ATs are limited in scope possibly to these, and that you'd be able to defeat those, then you can reasonably conclude at that point that you're right. But you have to be able to do the objective calculus, first of all. It's like a lot of people can't really do the TI calculus. That is to say, to remove themselves and their interest as a consideration in a calculation is difficult for FI users. It's difficult for TI below the second slot sometimes. I mean, INFJs probably don't have too much difficulty with it because they're so metaphysical. It can be difficult for Kimberly, for sure, to set aside her interest in the matter when calculating something. So, there aren't very many types that do disinterested calculus well and comfortably. Okay, let's see. But if you do it, then you can gauge it yourself. You can watch the videos in which I explain it, everything in the book video, where I got this every day a new one comes out, and it's from my book that I'm reading it out loud, and I explain what I'm reading too. Watch that thing and find areas that you can successfully argue against. And if you have a lot of trouble finding those areas, then you're on the right track for looking for the thing that's correct. If you find that you can successfully negate aspects of it, then come bring those negations, because I'll test them and see if they actually are negations or not. If they are, like I said, I'll either adjust or scrap it. But that's how you can know whether it's right. You can go test it yourself. That's what makes it objective, right? It's external data, and everyone can access it for themselves and judge it independently. Okay, aptitude. Batman, of course you must have aptitude. I believe anyone who has threshold intelligence can become a top-level chess player. I don't think so, David Snyder. I don't know if I have the threshold. I don't know how high your threshold is for intelligence, but assuming I meet your threshold, I still don't think I can become a top-level chess player. I just don't see what other people see about it. Like, I've been beaten too many times by too many people who I don't think are as smart as I And I actually studied it some. I studied it a little while in college. I was like, it went into a period of time when I had a book of like chess situations that you could try to solve. Uh, I found it dishearteningly non-intuitive for me. I think that I do believe chess has true beauty. I like it a lot. I also feel poker has true beauty. I'm not good at either game. I'm not bad at poker, but I play pretty tight. I just sort of try to take advantage of other people's loose play by only playing a couple hands here and there, and it's not really an effective way to play poker. And it's not a smart way to play. But I absolutely appreciate the beauty of poker, and I appreciate the beauty of chess as well. I'm just not very good at it. So I would negate your claim that people who pass a certain threshold of intelligence could become that. Maybe if I devoted all my life, like all my waking hours to studying chess, I could get better. But even if I had an extra 50 years or something, I don't think I'd ever get top level, because at a certain point, there's a talent barrier. I'm 6'4", so I passed the height threshold for playing in the NBA, but I'm nowhere near the talent threshold. I mean, I'd be on the lower end of the height threshold too, but I'd probably, there are other players in the NBA who are 6'4", I'm sure. But I have no talent, so there's my problem. I don't jump very high. I jump like this high off the ground, maybe at most. I can't dunk, and I'm 6'4". I'm not really a jumper, I'm more of a talker. I can jump with my mouth very high. Okay, let's see what else. If you consider it therapeutic, in that case, I got therapy. Come on, baby, got some therapy for you. It's called my penis. Is that your way of picking up chicks, Matthew? I told you that's not going to work. You practiced on it on me, remember? I said, Matthew, don't do that. It's not going to work. Chicks don't like that. Okay. I think you need a certain type of intelligence. My pattern recognition, for instance, won't get me anywhere. I remember that line. I don't know what line you're talking about. If I maximize on my skill, I'll still never be able to compete with somebody who's really good. Me too, Batman. Thanks for the sense memory. You're welcome. Maybe not have been me, but I'm going to welcome you for it anyway. Came in just because of the silly fun thumbnail preview. Well, glad to hear you, Tricky Ricky, to tell me so and that you're here. That was my most serious face, actually. David Schneider, fair enough. Gin chaotically minimal. Welcome to the party, Tricky Ricky 2. Actually, how are they talking in Australia? Blimey! Blimey! Or is that England? I don't know. According to DSP, most people type themselves upside down. Do you agree? No. How to avoid mistyping? For example, how do I know if I'm really an INTP or an ESFJ or an INFP? Well, you can pay me $100. I'll type you. And then you'll know for sure, because host Eric says that it must be true. I will genuinely give you my very best effort to figure out exactly your type, and you'll have, over 75 minutes of time to get into the questions you want to get answered from me, or you think I might provide words that you will find valuable walking away with. If you want to do it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But how to avoid mistyping? I mean, don't go into the typing with the wrong ideas, I guess. Don't think, this is how I check to see what T is or something. You gotta pay attention to your own cognition, what you're actually doing with your attention in any given moment. And that will be revelatory. As you get used to noting the different ways in which you pay attention and start to link them to this lexicon or rhetorical scaffolding that we use and we call cognitive functions, it's really just a set of words that we use to provide names to things that previously didn't have names. So conceptual channels, basically, and a way of understanding conscious expression that previously wasn't understood by anybody because the names didn't exist. And so it wasn't possible to understand that they could exist even until they finally did, when Jung sort of intuited the whole idea. And of course, that's the beautiful thing about intuition, is it can be extremely powerful and extremely right. Even if you're in a total empiricist and you go, cognitive functions are bullshit. I reject Dario Nardi's thing for some reason, and there's no other empirical evidence of them. And people have been attacked and all the other shit they say, right? There's absolutely no doubt that the intuitive resonance of the idea is powerful. But look, here we all are. Here we all are on the internet talking about it, making videos about it, watching videos about it, whatever, because it intuitively resonates that this is an effective way of understanding what it means to be human and other people and ourselves. So, that's the power of intuition over empirics. I don't know how I got onto that. Oh, right, L. Yeah, so you just gotta. I tell you what, I'm gonna give you the number one tip to avoid mistyping. Don't type yourself wrong. Never try to drink water when there's no water in the cup. Good advice. Just think about it. That is some good advice. Never try to drink cups either when there's no water in the cup. Never drink yellow water. Well, sometimes you do. That's too strong for a never. Because I might drink yellow water sometimes. If it's lemonade, for example, which is basically yellow water, or if I have water that I have yellow food coloring in for some reason, make that. Most yellow water probably won't be pee if it's in a place where you might drink it. Although that's not true at my house because I have my pee cup up there. It's full of pee, and but it's too high for you to reach. You wouldn't start drinking from it probably if you came over. Okay. ISTJs can be pretty funny. Yes, they can. Just not that frequently, in general. This one's ISTJ's mom told him, "You're going to lose that computer if you don't do your homework." And he said, I'm not going to lose it, Mom. It's right here. Yeah. I remember a joke Cameron told one time. It was a great SI joke. It was the best example of an SI joke I have. He was eating something like, I don't remember what exactly we were eating, but he was chewing it as we were watching the Olympics. And the skier kept going back and forth. And he was sort of like timing his chews with the skis. And he was like, "Boy, those skis make a loud noise." And I fucking busted up. It was hilarious. An SI joke. Okay. And you only have one set of inherent cognitive functions. Figure that out equals figure out your type. I'm no nonsense Brenna Lee, and I ain't taking no more of your shit. She'll eliminate me a water enhancer though. Busting chops and taking names, negating the fuck out of everyone's claims. They call her Brenna Lee. I love chess. I hate chess. It's too boring. I'm Brenna Lee, bitch. Interesting. ESP for me is a professional poker player or ex-professional poker player, as that game too. ESP for you as a you think ESPs are good at professional poker? They might be. I don't really know. I'd rather play Call of Duty. I'm Brenna Lee. It is becoming studying and running numbers and neglecting everything that brought me into it. Do a mouth jump. Crikey. Like intuition reading. No, that's my voice for somebody else. Like intuition reading people's psychology, seeing patterns, understanding flow, reacting, understanding reactions, exploiting. You got my name right. When you pulled me over top, police, you said Tricky Ricky. Sorry, Tricky Ricky too. Once GTO was introduced, the game kind of died. Your I'll type you for money marketing is getting better. Thank you, Power of Red Ball. I appreciate your acknowledgement. Battlefield 5 is my new shit now, and they added the update. It's pretty good. Brandon Lee, will you stop rapping? By mentioning it more often. Okay, well, that's a good qualifier there. You're saying it's not necessarily better, it's just you're doing it more frequently. Which type do you think begin with? I think it's INFJ. Why? Because he's got a great intuitive idea that's not very TI sound the way he presented it. I heard different things, mostly INTP and INFJ. I think INFJ. Don't eat yellow snow. Okay, I won't. Jung was about as INFJ as it gets. Euroland, why are you using Brenda Lee's voice? That's the only rule. His deep understanding of the subconscious is very, very INFJ. I think you're right, Brenna Lee. It's very INFJ. Carl Jung typed himself as being either an INTP or ISTP, if I am recalling correctly. You're Indian, just think about it, for this duration of that comment, anyway. Good song. Frank Zappa, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. Are you warning him? He's dead. He's not going to eat it. Interesting, he dead, so I guess we'll never know for sure. Laughing my effing ass off, motherfucker. I'm Brenna Lee. Our interviews him online, so maybe Eric can type please him. Here's a joke. Oh, this time you're not gonna be Indian anymore. You'll be Russian. Da, here's a joke. You'll be German. Yeah, here's a joke. What do the dominant SE users have? ESP. Yeah. Go back to Germany, just think about it. I think Jung was fairly INFJ with the intuitive woo-woo in-eye pattern. Intuitive woo-woo. I want a little bit of intuitive woo-woo. So come over, baby, now and intuitive poo-poo. I'm smoking the shit that killed Bin Laden. You're smoking bullets? Let's see. Probably unwise. Make sure you point them away from, well, I mean, you got it in the bong. You don't want to point it down and go in your crotch. You don't want to point it up because it'll go in your head. So just don't smoke bullets at all, I would suggest. And I'm an American English dude. That means I was born in England, but now I live in America and try to speak American English. So I've got kind of an unusual, undecipherable accent. When are we doing Life Cam Fest? What's Life Cam Fest? What is that thing you say? I don't know what that is. Well, I made it to the end of the chat. I did a pretty good job. Dutch? No, I could do Norwegian if I just say 2 words. I help! That's what Susie says. Pretty good. I could do Eric Thor. Let's see. So when you look at your opportunities, you've got to bring into account your if you're an INFJ, he was never shot. He died from a massive bonk rip of the dankest Afghan Kush. Huh. You think the U.S. just capitalized on his naturally occurring death by creating the story of SEAL Team 6? What's my middle name? Lady Killer. I don't know. Probably better than chat roulette. It's probably not even a real thing. Well, what's not a real thing? Live Cam Fest? Oh, I saw the video where you got type placed, Eric, and you're not an ENTP. I'm sorry, Jeff. I've been faking this whole time. I'm actually an ISFP who does a great ENTP impression. Thanks, Tricky Ricky, too, for your praise about my Eric Thor impression. I'm a nice guy, but sometimes I like to push weaker and smaller people around and beat them down. But aside from that minor thing, I'm a nice guy overall. Well, you're nice to the people you're not mean to. That's almost definitely necessary, right? Look, if you want to see somebody nice, really, really nice, like to everybody, then I want you to just look at the set of people that I'm nice to, okay? That's the best way to ascertain my niceness. If you want me to be nice. A massive cam invite. Well, I mean, I have the raw room with 12 cameras, and it's probably full right now. It's probably recording to the raw channel. For those of you who don't know, and you can see what it's like by going to the raw channel, I'll put the link here. I have that room. It records 24/7, and it has as many as 12 cameras on at once. That's full. That's as much as a Peer.in will put in at one time. So it looks like it's fucked up right now. is putting out 1 second long videos for the last day or two. I have a lot of tech problems with this thing, but I'll put the link here anyway to the channel. The channel. Can I do a movie trailer voice impression? Sure. Give me a topic of the movie though, so I can work on. I can have something to work with here. Yeah, I saw a news article about that guy on the Massachusetts Pike on the hood of the car. That's totally cinematic. Absolutely. At the end of not just that, probably, but other movies too, I would guess. I've never seen Death Proof. So give me a topic for this movie that I'm going to be talking about. Jurassic Park? No, that's not a topic. That's an existing movie. There was a 1 second clip of CS Joseph days ago on your Raw channel. Did you talk to him? Nope. My Chicken? Okay. Now, so we've got a main character is the chicken. Okay. So now we need a time period. What era are we? Future or some past era or modern day? Let's see. The main character is the chicken. The time period of this movie will be, and we're going to chime one in the 60s. Okay. Okay, it's the 60s. All right. Now we're going with the 60s. We're going with the first answer. So we got a chicken in the 60s, and I want to know a genre of movie. Is this a lighthearted romantic comedy? Is it a serious drama? Is it a war movie? Is it a Western? Is it a musical? Sci-fi? Okay, sci-fi. A comedy? No, I think I'm going to go with it's a sci-fi rock opera. Okay. It's a nom? Okay, it's a nom. This is a war movie. It's a serious war movie. In a world where everybody goes to war, one chicken emerges outrageously victorious in Brian D'Souza's outrageous victory. Bark, 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 bark. Ah! God damn it, Barnes. Somebody needs to get the chicken off the front lines. She's a war hero. I really like, yeah, no, she is an INFJ for sure. When I met her in person, I talked to her for not very long. I could immediately tell. This has gone off the rails. Apparently, you are not very good at keeping track of where the rails are. Okay, Mr. Cosmic Pentastar? If you thought the rails were over there, then you're the one who's gone off the rails because they're over here. And you don't even have wheels on the bottom of your feet. How do you expect to stay on the rails? The rest of us have wheels on our feet. They can eat chicken if he gets murdered. No, well, not the chicken in this story. This chicken in this story would never allow itself to get killed and have enough of its body left to be eaten. She's got explosives strapped from her comb to her three-toed feet. Okay, so let's see. Rails. Oh, good. You found them. Good. Right. So it's rails time. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. We have a tradition here on TWFP that at 20 minutes before the hour, we all do rails. So cut them up. Hot rails are an acceptable alternative if you want to do that. Chicken has a rapid healing quality in general. The chicken, the species of the chicken, is true. Our chicken took a full month, though, to be able to walk again, which tells me our chicken was very injured, and that was quite a substantial recuperation period, given the fact that chickens do heal very quickly. What Enneagram type is my chicken? That's a good question. I think I would say she's an 8. An 8, probably an 8-3-7. 8-3-7, I'm going to say. Okay, so what link got you nowhere? Did I put a link someplace? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know what has gone wrong. Okay, what do you think about statistics? Why does statistics work? Why is it reliable? Well, statistics are as reliable as is the crafting of the usage of them. So it's like, it depends what you're trying to accomplish with statistics. If you want to predict how a large population of people will react to certain things, then there's a decent chance that, depending on the kind of thing you're talking about, past results might actually be good indicators of future outcomes. So, for example, let's say in the past, my company has tried creating a new mascot that's very fun and friendly, and it blew up in my company's face, and everybody made fun of it, and we had to get rid of it. And the publicity didn't actually increase business. They say, oh, publicity is good publicity, but actually it made people take us not that seriously. And given the nature of our brand positioning, it really hurt us. And then some other businesses, the same thing, right? And they present data about it for some reason. That we get those data out in the real world where people can see it, and they make the correlations, they make the linkages. Those sort of things are starting to happen nowadays with the internet, right? So in that instance, I think statistics is useful because you can get sort of general demographic trends and likely responses to proposed actions. If a number of businesses have tried that and it's failed all the time, and you see substantial negative impacts borne out in the actual stats, then you can know. I mean, the nice thing about stats, regardless of what you're doing with them, is they highly suggest to you that you have a metric of comparison. Namely, let's look at these numbers against these other numbers. Metrics of comparison against alternatives are always better than metrics of comparison against ideals when dealing with real world things. You know, it's only good to compare against ideals when you're talking about things like public policy. Otherwise, it's silly. You can be constrained by ideals, but you should be constrained by ideals, but you shouldn't be guided by them, except in terms of public policy in general. It's silly to think that. So, you know, regardless, that's getting tangential. Law of large numbers. Yeah, right. Law of large numbers means statistics can be useful when you're dealing with large populations. If you're trying to do shit that you're trying to do shit to a shit ton of people, then understanding how the population as a whole segments into different subpopulations that are predictably react to stimuli of sort X in way Y, that's a meaningful use of statistics in the sense that it's linked directly to a particular goal of yours, usually making money. So if it's linked to a specific goal of yours, making money, then you have a real metric to judge whether it was successful or not. Were these statistics, was it smart of me to rely upon these statistics? Well, I made more money than I was before I incorporated these statistics into my calculation. So the answer is yes. Can you assert for sure that there's a causal link between including those stats and the making of more money? No, because it's a multivariate system. Any kind of economic enterprise like that, a business or something, there's lots of different factors. Maybe you made more money because the nearly identical business 2 doors down went out of business and all their customers are going to you. It could just be correlative. But the point is, regardless, we can evaluate it against a concrete reality, which is the bottom line, you know, red and black. And if you have something like that, then yes, statistics are meaningful. If you don't have something like that, if you're simply trying to use statistics to advocate for the resolution of a question to which there's no way to compare against an objective, concrete, external, like making money, that's both specific and measurable and comparable against an equivalent measurement that's made in the same units. You know, you got to have all those various factors. SCPs often mistyped as NTPs. SC is the doing stuff function, but is there an imaginative aspect to this function that leads people to think there are any, or is it just their fourth slot NI talking? Well, remember that an action type is going to be good at both kinds of action. And it depends on which expression of extroverted intuition a test tests for. So ESP is going to be better at some expressions of it than others. ESP is going to be pretty good at expressions of extroverted intuition in their native ecosystem, the physical environment. They'll be pretty good at seeing their ideas for physical things come to fruition. For example, Taylor used to do a lot of gun, I guess it's called pimping out your guns or something, where he'd buy a regular gun and put extra shiny shit on it and then resell it for a profit. I don't know what you call that, but pimping out your gun seems like a good enough expression. It explains basically what the concept is. So that would be it's essentially seeing the execution of extroverted intuition in the physical space by SE, and it shows that in their own ecosystem, their NE is quite good, and in a lot of ways better than the ENTP's NE in the ENTP's non-native ecosystem. But the thing is, of course, the reason it's its native ecosystem is because most expressions of extroverted intuition occur in the metaphysical space, and expressions of extroverted intuition in general are much more comfortable and effective in the metaphysical space. So it's only because of the dominant physicality of the ESTP that they have a tendency to try to bring, try to use their extroverted intuition in their native environment. So they can be good at it is the point. And that's one of the reasons why they might mistype as the ENTPs. It's just they're good at it in a slightly different way than the ENTPs are. ESTPs are likely to say, okay, too many words pretty quickly. Like they want the concision and the determination of TI. They don't want with it the muddying quality that NE brings along. So ESTPs, they want things clear cut. Actions are like trains. Trains can go forward or they can stop, get knocked off rails, and be used for transportation. An action transports information and goes forward and go off the rails. Well, does it transport information? An action is either ideational in a creative way, that is, say, generates words, or it impacts objects. Impacts systems maybe, but really impacts objects. So like this is an object. You're right, it could go forward, I could persist in it, I could stop it, it could get knocked out of my hands or something, therefore forcing me to stop the action. What information is transmitted by that action? Well, only the information I choose to use it to communicate, because you might glean information from this, right? But the only reason I'm communicating about it right now is because of what you said. So whatever information you glean from me lighting a cigarette with this torch is information you're creating based on your own status quo, knowledge base, and other stuff. The meaning's created in the listener. The intended meaning by the speaker doesn't really matter. Transport might be the wrong word. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to bust your chops. I'm a little persnickety about things sometimes. Eric, would you agree that one of the misleading ways the word objective is understood is the following? Something is objective if it is true no matter what is said about it. Yeah, I mean, that's a terrible way to define it, because, I mean, really to say it's true is to say in a discursive event, all parties agree to afford it the status of truth. So that definition is very silly. Something is objective if it is true no matter what is said about it. Yeah, well, things can't be objective like that. I mean, physical objects are objects. They're objective. They're objects. And there are things in the metaphysical plane that are objects as well. Objects aren't objective. They're objects. People can be objective in the sense that they can calculate objectively, or they can reference only objective data sets in presenting a case or something. But statements and things and objects can't be objective. And it's funny because it's almost the antithesis of your definition. Who said that nonsense? In the philosophical sense, something is objective if it is independent of a subject. Well, I mean, in the philosophical sense, you could say something's objective. To say that it's objective is to say the if part goes, um, the word modified by objective has the attributes of an object. So, in that sense, you could think of the word linguistically as doing that. So, if I say it's an objective cheese, you say this cheese has the qualities of an object, but that would be a weird thing to say because it is an object. The object's a bigger set than cheese, so obviously it wouldn't. You would have no cause to say something like that. Something is objective. Again, things aren't objective. So that's the number one thing we need to get to the bottom of, is that you might say a person's objective. A question could be objective in the sense that it is a question that can be answered with objective data. Like, who won the Super Bowl in 1978 is an objective question. We can find out the answer. There's a source we can look to, and it will tell us the answer, and we'll both agree that that source is determinate. Like, if I say I think it was the Buffalo Bills who won in 1978, and just think about it, says no, I think it was the Washington Redskins, and then we look it up on ESPN, and it says Washington Redskins. I'm not going to go, well, ESPN's wrong, right? I'm going to just go, I guess I was wrong. Even if I did think that, I'd look it up on another site. If a couple of them agreed, then I'd have no choice but just concede, well, you're right, it wasn't the Buffalo Bills. And that's an objective question because it's a question that can be answered in a determinate fashion like that. But not all questions that are objective are that easy to determine the answer to. So the best way to say that, the best way to talk about objectivity is to state that objectivity is it refers to a quality that people have in the application of their either calculi or a quality that data has in its inherent accessibility and public nature, its ability for third parties to both access it independently of each other and critique it independently of each other. Okay. Is it an introverted thinking way to argue this? You cannot argue against this fact as objectively true. No, it's not an introverted way of thinking. An introverted thinker might say that, but that's funny. But that would not be a warrant. There's not a warrant there. See, the thing about TI is it requires warrants, and a warrant is a justification for a claim. The claim here, you cannot argue against this fact, it is objectively true, is not a warranted claim. First of all, the objective truth of the thing is obviously in dispute if somebody's trying to argue it. And the fact that it's a fact is not determinant of its truth, frankly, because if it's completely in a vacuum, a piece of data is completely in a vacuum, well, then maybe the meaning of fact would have some relevance, but it never is. It's being used for something, and the factualness of it is not just the literal words of the statement, it's also the linkage. So if I'm falsely portraying a link between two things where there's no link, then my fact is being used counterfactually in some fashion. Anyway, I got to go. I got to type in 5 minutes, and I have to pee before I start that. So thank you all for being here, and I appreciate our fun conversation. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And if you haven't recently washed behind your ears, do so. Get a bar soap, just scrub right back there, right back on the back side of the ear. It gets a little greasy over time.